You have to figure out, one, how much you want to pay yourself. So you have to value your time, because I do see that as well, where people put things up and I'm like, I don't understand how they're going to make any profit from this, because yes, you want a sale, but your time is so valuable and you need to pay you too. So you have to decide how much hourly that you want to get paid for yourself, like how long it's going to take you to make that, how much are the cost of the supplies that you're using to make that product.
Okay.
And then that's how you're going to figure out how much you're going to price it at.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the podcast that inspires action and helps you to grow your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Ever considered harnessing your creative talents and turning them into a side hustle? That's what Walsh has done. She's had over 12,000 sales at her Etsy store, while at the same time working as a nurse and managing the demands of everyday life. Megan sells unique, aromatic wall decor and collectibles, with revenues of $120,000 per year and netting about half of that. Her story highlights the potential of selling on Etsy, a platform with a built-in audience of millions who actively seek out handmade and unique items, as well as user-friendly tools to help you set up and manage your shop. Megan shares the challenges too, like standing out in a crowded market, and the need to pivot when an item is no longer selling. In our conversation, Megan teaches strategies that have helped her succeed, including how to price your products to value your time, and dealing with copycats who steal your images and try to replicate what you do. And while she juggles her side hustle with part-time nursing and family responsibilities, she's refreshingly honest about the moments of burnout and what she does to keep that at a minimum. But before all that, I have a quick favor to ask. If there are aspects of this podcast you enjoy or areas where you think we can improve, I'd love to hear from you. In the episode description, you'll find a link to a short survey. Just 15 seconds of your time will help me tailor the show to what you want. For example, what's your ideal episode length? 15 minutes, 30, 60? Instead of guessing, I'd love to know your thoughts. Your feedback truly matters, and I'm so grateful for it. Now here's my conversation with the founder of the Etsy store, known as Megan's Menagerie, Megan Walsh. Well, welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, tell us about your best-selling item on Etsy.
So my best-selling item on Etsy would have to be my eucalyptus and lavender wall hanging.
And what does it look like?
It is on a wooden dowel, and you'll receive eucalyptus on there with lavender bundles. It's very aromatic. It's a great conversation piece. Like, there's so many different things when people hang it up. It's like, oh, this is such a cool piece. It's so unique. The smell is fantastic. It's very spa-like, so it's nice to just have in my space to look at.
Yeah, it does look really unique. And for those that are just listening to this, so you've got this dowel, this stick that's about, what, 1.5 feet, something like that in length?
Yeah, I offer a 36-inch size and a 48-inch size in width.
Okay. And then, so that goes across horizontally. And then you've got these strands of eucalyptus that are hanging off of it vertically.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, drop a photo of it in the show notes so that people get to see it as well. How did you come up with that idea? That sounds quite unique.
So it was like 2020, and we were going through COVID, which was awful. I do work as a nurse, so you can imagine how difficult it was to work through that situation. I've been a nurse for, it's going on 10 years this year. And so let's say like 4 years ago, I was a nurse for 5-6 years at that point. A lot of anxiety, very stressful. We don't really know what we were dealing with, and we were forced to go into that. So I had a lot of anxiety. My father was really sick at the time, and the frustrating part was trying to take care of all these people coming in who were sick, and then, my dad being sick, but I couldn't be there to be with him because everybody was all isolating and he was in rehab, like a rehab. So it was really, really tough. I create, and I've always been a creator since I was a little kid. I It's my way to relieve my anxiety and stress and like worries. I just kind of throw myself into work. So I wanted to do something. My dad was a master gardener and he did end up passing in September 1st of 2020.
Oh.
So I'm not really good with the live plants. He was amazing and he could make like anything grow, and he just had such knowledge. So I thought, how cool would it be to bring something inside which the eucalyptus is preserved, right? So that's different than like the fresh eucalyptus. This option is more, this will last you years, and the scent lasts several weeks. It's very nice to look at. And the scent is just so, like I said, like aromatic that.
Yes.
So that's why I was like, this would be really cool to make something like this for people to have like last year's, and maybe, they're going through it too and dealing with that stress and that anxiety. So
nice.
I can like bring that to them.
That could be potential sales outside of the Etsy platform is spas in your area.
Yes. And I have people purchase them through my website.
Okay.
A lot of people will ask too if I ever would choose to come off Etsy, which I've been on Etsy since like 2009.
Okay.
So my following is really big and I've established so many customers that way. So I'm very hesitant to do it just because that's where everybody knows where I am. So they do come by though for certain spas, and you'll see it when I'm like shipping. I could see like where it's going. And it's a lot of spas, mom and pop shops, stuff like that.
You mentioned your website. Is that separate from the Etsy shop?
No, that is.
So that's the only place you're selling through is your Etsy store?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And you mentioned you've preserved it somehow.
Yes.
And I won't ask you about any trade secrets in that regard, but how long does it take you to make one?
Like the preservation process?
The whole thing, if somebody orders one.
Well, the preservation process is done weeks prior to when I can actually use it. Almost like, people cure soap where they make the soap and like cold processed soap where they have to like let it sit for weeks before they can cut it and be able to sell it. So the process is weeks and weeks out. And once it's ready, then you can take it, and it probably takes me about half an hour to make one.
All right.
Like start to finish.
Yes. Yeah. All right. And how many items are you selling? Like, how many different items are you selling on your store?
So my biggest seller is the plant wall hangings. I do work with the dried florals. I also sell a lot of vintage items because I am a finder. I love finding things, and I love appreciating those things and getting them to those people who will be able to appreciate them for years to come. Nothing is sadder to me than like finding something so personal for somebody, and I see it in these like shops, like, our local thrift shops. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like somebody just got rid of it, or maybe they didn't mean to get rid of it. And sometimes that happens. And so I feel like I can kind of save, rescue, kind of like recycle, reuse, and get it into the hands of people who are going to appreciate it.
So it sounds like you've got a combination of two categories of items that you're selling through Etsy. One is the handcrafted, like the eucalyptus hangings, and then the other ones are one-off things that you find. Is that correct? Yeah. Well, what caused you to jump on Etsy in the first place?
I started nursing school, and it brought a lot of anxiety. I had a family member who was on Etsy, and she was like, you should try this out because you're super creative. So I was like, okay. And that's what I did. I hopped on and checked it out, and it was so much different than it is today. They had like forum chat rooms. Like it was such a smaller community. Much smaller than what it was today.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still helpful. Like the forums that they have, they still do them, but like they took away those chat rooms and it's changed a lot. But it really benefited me in the beginning because of how small it was.
It sounded like it was much more of a community of sellers there now.
Yes.
And now you're all in your
Yes.
individual silos.
Yes. And it became the past couple years, I've had a lot of battling with sellers stealing my photos, even pictures. Like if you see, like I've crocheted things on there, that's my daughter who's now 20. So she's been on there for many, many years.
Yes.
But they'll like steal my photos, like straight up copy paste. And I'm like, this, like, no,
Wow. Yeah.
it's so, I mean, daily I could go on there and find other sellers and you could see in their shop the same things like, oh, well, I know who's selling that. So I would like message that other seller and be like, hey, this shop has your item. It would have been amazing to order one to see actually what I would have received.
Right.
But it was really frustrating. So
I trust you reached out to Etsy about that.
I try.
Okay.
And up until just recent, I received an email stating that they were going to try to start like really cracking down, I guess, because this is an ongoing issue. And it's frustrating for the buyer too, because they don't understand. I don't think everybody understands that everybody is their own individual person. So like my shop is me. Like it's not, a bunch of people. It's just me in my home in Manahawkin, New Jersey. They might think, well, all these things is just coming from one place, or kind of like how Amazon works, like warehouses or something like that. So, it's horrible that they would spend money on something and then they don't receive the product because it's not a real shop.
Have you reached out to someone in the past that, say, is trying to sell a frame with a picture of your daughter in it or your eucalyptus photos, and what's transpired?
They take it down. I'll just keep reporting it like every single day. I'll just keep going on because it's not only me. I'll like also reach out to the other people because it's like weird. It'll be like, a wall hanging from my shop. Then they go to somebody else's shop and find their most popular item. And then they try to sell that. It's so all over the place. So when they see that too, they report them. So I feel like just by having multiple people try to do that, but that is a really frustrating thing that happens.
I bet. I mean,
it hasn't really been a wait though. It's been actually pretty good.
Well, that's good. Tell us about the Charlie Brown patterned scarf.
Yes. So that was in 2012. This was my first real big takeoff. And I was like, wow, like this is really something. And this is when it became a business, like a real business for me. So yeah, that lasted for like about 2 years. And then, because it's like trends come and go. So.
Right. Yeah. So you always have to be on the lookout for sort of the next big thing, right? And pivot. So this Charlie Brown scarf, then you would knit the scarf, and then tell me about the Charlie Brown component.
So I would sew it. It was already a pattern, like a fabric, and I would just cut it and I would sew it.
Got it. So you would buy the Charlie Brown fabric. Got it. Yeah.
So I had to reach out to a supplier who would be willing to make the fabric into like a knit fabric, because you want something that's nice and soft around your neck. And I would buy it in like a bulk bolts, like fabric bolts, which my UPS driver loved delivery days. And she would drop it off and I would literally roll it out and cut and sew, and the process would be hours.
Why do you think it was so popular, that particular one?
I don't know. I mean, things like come and go, and it's funny how things, they like come back around too. So I feel like you just never know what's going to be popular.
Yeah. And I had read that you literally had to put rugs down underneath the sewing machine because you were living in an apartment and doing this in very early hours, I understand. Tell us about that.
Right. So I was going through nursing school. I had it was my second son who was born. Time management was really tough. School really kept me busy, like studying. We lived on the second floor, so my neighbors lived below me and they were hardwood floors. So I had to get like rugs to put down so that when I sewed, because it was an old Singer sewing machine that
Right.
it was my mother's, that was her grandmother's. So, it was like the thumping, like constant. And I was like, oh my gosh, at least our neighbors were really cool. They were so cool. They were so chill. They never complained about like the kids running around or, making noise. But I just wanted to make sure that like when I started sewing at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, I mean, that would be annoying.
Right.
Like if it's the middle of the day and the kids are running around, like, okay, yes, there's people that live above us and that comes with apartment living. But I'm still considerate to be like, and if it's too much, they would have been like, hey, it's too much. But they were super cool. And those rugs definitely helped get me through those hours.
Well, you bring up a good point. How did you balance being, a full-time student, then full-time nurse, parent, running and growing this Etsy shop?
I honestly, I don't
know. Thinking back.
Yeah, there's so many things that I want to do in my life, and we only get so long. So I think multitasking is a really strong, like it's a skill. And I set my intention for the day in the morning. So I know like, this is what I'm going to do. Because if I don't do that, I'm going to get really overwhelmed and there really is not enough hours a day. So you have to be realistic with what you're going to do that day and stick to it. Otherwise, you would just get so burnt out so easy and so overwhelmed. And I do have those days where it is really stressful and I do get burnt out, but it's just being like realistic about it, right? So set the intention. This is what I'm going to do today. And that's it. Not, oh, well, I got done early, so I'm going to take another hour to like, no, we're done. This is what we did today. Now we're going to like do something else, whether that's go take a walk, go read a book, play a video game with the kids, or, maybe go to bed early. Like, it's okay. Just, you have to like do stuff for you too. So I still do struggle with that a little bit, but
it sounds like you're very disciplined.
Yes.
And so what drives you to be? Why are you doing this?
I've always been a creator. It relieves a lot of anxiety and stress for me. So, I am 41 years old and I'm hustling now so that I don't have to later on in my life. I want to be able to enjoy, what I have left. And who knows, we never know how much time we're going to have, but
that's true.
I want to travel, things like that.
When you do travel, so say for example, you wanted to go on holidays for a week, what do you do at the store?
I will put it on vacation mode,
or
I'll let things sell out and then just not relist certain things. You could put like announcements into your shop if you're going to go on holiday, like sellers away until this date, so your item won't ship until, stuff like that. So you could just put an announcement in there so they know.
Well, you mentioned the workload sometimes and, of course, those days becoming overwhelmed. Have you ever brought on somebody to help you part-time?
My husband is my helper.
Okay.
I could not do what I do without him because he does everything like in the home. So when the kids need rides to school, kids need bus stops, kids stay after school for activities, and they do a lot of different things. So pickups, drop-offs, they forget things. He's there. If they're homesick, he's home. He does all the cooking. I'm not a cooker. I do if I have to. He does all the shopping. He does the laundry. Like, can I do it? Yes. But he's just so, like, I've come home and he has, like, cookies in the oven. And I'm just like, you're so good. So he keeps up with everything I hear. And, it's like, I'm over here. So it's like a nice balance. And we just kind of balance each other out. And then he does all my shipping for me. So he wraps everything, he packages everything up, he makes the runs every day to Postal Service or UPS, depending on where it's going.
Sounds like a great team effort.
Yes, yes,
So
it is.
what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early days of your business, either with the platform itself or just learning to run a business?
So when I started Etsy, I did it just because I was trying to figure out what it was. I guess joining a group of people who kind of felt how I felt and, want to bring their creativity to a website. And it was exactly that, right? There were so many people that I'm still friends with to this day that I met on those early days where we follow each other on Instagram still. And,
Oh, that's fabulous.
It was really cool to just know that there's other people out there that have the same interests that you do. So all I wanted to do was check it out. I wanted to be part of something. So that's what I did. I started off with jewelry, actually, which is why picking my name, we kept it as like a menagerie because it was ever changing. And I would never have to be like set on one thing because then it wouldn't make sense.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm like, I feel like this will always be like changing through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the perfect name.
Megan's Menagerie.
So, yes.
Yeah, that's a good tip because some people will make, I don't know, Mary's Plumbing or something like that, and they go to sell the business and Mary's selling the business. So, yeah, you need to pay attention to the future.
Right.
In terms
of if you were going to make like bracelets or jewelry or something, and then, you have kind of something jewelry in your name, but then you don't sell that anymore. But now all these people know you as that. You're going to change your name.
Right.
Now those people might not. So I wanted something that would be just
generic, kind of like that.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Because who knows? Who knows where this journey is going to take me? So I started selling jewelry, but then I went to crochet because my grandmother and my mom taught me at a really young age. And I kind of wanted to see if that would do anything. And I remember getting my first sale and being like, oh my gosh, like that was it for me. People want what I can make. And in my head, it just was like the coolest thing.
Was that your first sale? Was something that you crocheted?
That was my first, yes. Yep. It was like a crocheted scarf. And then I was like, oh, I can do this. I don't know what I'm going to do, but like, to make this a business. But somebody thought enough to like what I made. And I was able to make that for them and they bought it. It was really cool. I'll never forget the feeling.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, what advice would you give someone starting out today selling on Etsy? What do they need to break through, to get noticed, get those first sales?
You can utilize the forums. There's a lot of information out there that people are posting daily with what they may be struggling with or questions that you have. It's tougher. It's definitely tougher than what it was when I joined because it's so much bigger, right? Yes. People will be like, oh, you sell on Etsy. Is it easy to do? I want to be able to open a store. And I'm like, all right, well, is it something people are going to want? Like, how are you going to make yourself different from other people?
Yes.
Because you have to stand out. And you always have to try, number one, because if you can't succeed if you don't try. So you have to figure out those things that work for you and the things that don't, because that's what we all have done. I've, failed miserably with like jewelry and things like that. So it's okay. So that's what you're not like, okay, so this isn't working for me and we're going to move on and try something else. So that's kind of like what you have to do. Just be like open about it, be okay with failing or not succeeding and switch gears and try something else.
Right.
But you have to like really be disciplined in it. And if you really want to make it a business, you have to like, pictures are huge because people can't pick it up. They can't touch it. It's what they're looking at. So online, you want to make sure they're really, really good.
Well lit, clear,
Right.
vibrant.
Like
Yeah.
I've seen people just throw stuff on a table and take a picture, and I'm like,
No, no.
no, like,
Yeah.
no. So you just have to keep like things like that in mind. Your descriptions really well thought out.
Is there any way that you can market or promote yourself within the site? Or is it all up to the Etsy algorithms?
So the Etsy algorithm definitely, it depends on how you title things, your descriptions, your tag words. There are ads you could pay for, but they rack up pretty quick and you're going to be spending quite a bit of money.
Right.
So
So you don't go that
that's
route? No.
nope. I don't run sales on those items because I don't have to.
What happens when you have an item that is not selling? Do you give it a certain time frame and then take it down or leave it up there? How do you handle those?
If it's up there for a while and you can see your views on it. So I know if it's not doing well, if it does finally sell, I won't relist it because it's sold and I know it's not maybe something that somebody wants. They're just not as popular.
Right. Well, let's take a look at revenue and expenses. How do you decide how to price an item?
You have to figure out how much you want to pay yourself. So you have to value your time, because I do see that as well, where people put things up and I'm like, I don't understand how they're going to make any profit from this, because yes, you want a sale, but your time is so valuable and you need to pay you too. So
Yeah.
you have to decide how much hourly that you want to get paid for yourself, like how long it's going to take you to make that. How much are the cost of the supplies that you're using to make that product?
Okay.
And then that's how you're going to figure out how much you're going to price it at.
Okay. So if you want to make, I don't know, we'll just call it $70 an hour and it's taking you an hour to do it, you'll take your
Right.
$70 plus the cost of your product, whatever that might be, maybe $30. So now we're up to $100 sale price, but then we've got the Etsy fees, right? Like what they
Correct.
take.
So you have Etsy fees, and then there's like the other transaction for the credit card.
And who pays the shipping for the item?
So it depends on the item. So I offer free shipping on some of my items, which is just built into the cost of the product, because then there's like what I use, like all my shipping supplies and things. And then other times it's the buyer that pays the shipping, but it'll tell you in a listing which item is free shipping or you're paying for shipping.
Right. Because if you, as the seller, are paying that shipping, you've got to be building it in. Like, make sure you're not losing money. Right.
Right. Yep. So it's a mind. People like to look at it and say, oh, it's free shipping. I know for me, I'd rather like not pay shipping than pay shipping if I'm looking at something.
Right.
For some reason, it's like a mind game.
It is.
Head.
Oh, I'll buy this.
Yeah.
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 Right. Because just say everything all costs in, it's $120 plus the shipping. Then it's like, oh, it's $130. Okay. Including the shipping. No extra free shipping, $130.
Free shipping.
Yeah. That sounds way better.
Yep.
Well, do you rely on any specific marketing or social media strategies to promote your shop?
I don't. Honestly, social media, I really struggle. I'm kind of forced to have to do it because I run an online business, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
I do try.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not a strong suit for me.
You don't wake up in the morning and go, yay, I get to post today.
No.
No. Well, what are your earnings now on the platform?
I like take home wise, or
you can give us both, gross and net.
So it's about like 120,000 a year on Etsy, and then I pocket about half that after all the supplies and shipping costs and fees.
For the items that you're not creating, the ones that you are finding at the local garage sale, how are you pricing those as far as reselling? Like, do you take
So
into account your time, or you just look at it and see what you think it would be worth?
yeah, I just basically, because it's fun for me and I enjoy it. And that's how I like to spend my time, to just get out of the house and, just take some time for me. Like that's the fun part. So if I find the things along the way, that's great. But I'll just look at like comparison type items to figure out what things are worth, because what you want to sell things for, the reality is it is what it is. And then there's like condition issues and things
Yes.
like that. So you have to really look at those things too, which is also what makes me, buy or not buy when I'm looking at something. Like, you could find something that's like worth a ton of money, but the condition is horrible. So it's really not going to be worth what
Right.
you want it to be worth.
Yes.
So you have to be real about that too.
But at the same time, given your motivation, really, this is paying you to go out and seek out these items, which is fun.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Yes. And you can write off those expenses because
Yep.
you're out there looking for those things.
Yes.
Well, looking at your business today in percentage terms, how much time are you actually crafting versus the business side, the customer correspondence, the social media?
So, like I said, social media is
Yeah, yeah.
not my strong suit, but definitely spend the majority of the time. It's 95% of the time is making. I mean, I get
Nice.
back to customers quick, so that doesn't really take that much time. I mean, it is 95% of the time making.
After all, that's what you want to be doing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you could start over knowing what you know now, is there anything you'd do differently?
No,
No.
not at all. Nope.
Yeah.
I just roll with this, honestly. People are like, well, what happens if it stops or it's just not popular anymore? Or what are you going to do? And I'm like, just keep moving forward. And this is fun for me. Yes, it's a business, and I am grateful and I'm very humble for the ability to do this every day. And my customers are amazing, but it's like, I'm a realist too. And I know how these things are. So it's okay. Like, I work very local. I have a job that offers me benefits. And so I'll just work like it's okay.
When you mention benefits, are you talking about the nursing you're doing part-time or the benefits of the
Yes.
Etsy shop? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Benefits like health benefits.
Right. So you kept your foot in that, because that would be always another option for you as well, to either reduce or increase those shifts, right? In
Correct.
nursing?
So I
Yeah.
work as a part-time nurse right now, which
Yeah.
is 3 days a week, but we're very, very, very busy and there's always shifts to pick up. Like, yeah.
How does it feel knowing that your side hustle has helped you pay for expenses like cars and vacations and going out for dinner? And
It's amazing. Like, I am very humble for that. I think it's just like, it's an incredible feeling to know you started with like nothing and you built it yourself. Like, nobody handed me anything. I had to really figure things out, what worked, what didn't, a lot of trial and error, failure, a lot of ups and downs. And so to look at it today, like, I would not have believed, me looking back, to be like,
yes.
this is going to be you. Like, no way, but here we are. So that's so cool. Like, that I built something that's what it is today.
So those 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m. mornings
Yeah.
sewing on the second floor of your apartment were worth it.
So we went through Sandy here at the Jersey Shore.
Yes.
Like Hurricane Sandy. It was awful. And I was like, we have no power. We had no power for weeks. We actually went up to Pennsylvania, and because it was like freezing, it was in October. And I took all my sewing, like fabric and sewing machine with me. So I'm like, I got orders. I got to ship these out. And my husband's like, I think everybody will understand that, it's okay. And I was like printing notes and like strips to be like, I'm sorry, this is like taking a little bit longer, but we went through Sandy and it was so bad. But that's like me. That's
Yes.
like where, like trying to explain who I am.
You wanted to follow through for your customers one way or another.
Yes.
Somehow I'm going to get this done. And you know what,
Yes.
Megan? I would have been the same way too. What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Megan?
So you can find me at www.megansmenagerie.etsy.com.
Got it.
And you can also find me on Instagram. That's the only other social media that I used. And that's at Megan's Menagerie.
Great. And we'll have both those sites in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So what's your best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream?
Just do it. Just do it. If it's in your head and you can't stop thinking about it, you're meant to do it. And try it. And if it doesn't work, rework it, try something else. But if it's just in your head, it's never going to go anywhere. Like you need to just try it. Like it's okay that you don't succeed at first, or maybe you will, but you won't know. So you just got to do it.
Especially jumping on a platform like Etsy. Yes, there's going to be the cost of your inventory, your raw materials, but actually getting it up and listed on Etsy, it's a pretty minimal cost, right?
Yes, it is. Yep. Yeah. It's the best that I've seen out there. So I've had like coworkers or friends who have done other platforms selling, and they'll tell me about their prices, and I'm like, oof, that seems like a lot. So but it's also what you're selling, and you have the idea in your head and you don't try. It's never going to go anywhere because it's only in your head. So get it out there, start your website, join Etsy, see what happens, play with it, and you won't know until you do it.
That's good advice. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for sharing your Etsy journey and for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
We intentionally didn't take too much of a dive into the Etsy fees because they do change, and it's going to depend a little bit on your situation. But in general terms, there may be a setup fee. For each item you list, Etsy charges 20 cents US, and there is a transaction fee, of course, for each item sold. Currently, it's at 6.5% of the price you've displayed on your page, plus the amount you charge for delivery and gift wrapping. And if you want to be part of the advertising and promotions, of course, there's fees for that too. I've dropped a link into the show notes of the main fee page of Etsy. It's at etsy.com/legal/fees. Megan's story is such a great reminder of the incredible opportunities that come from embracing your creativity and pairing it with persistence. One of the biggest takeaways from today's conversation is that success often comes down to how you respond to challenges, whether it's dealing with competition, managing your time, or even something as frustrating as copycats stealing your work. The key is not letting setbacks derail your momentum. Megan's experience with reaching out to Etsy to protect her images is a perfect example of taking proactive steps rather than letting the frustration fester. You'll also note how Megan has adapted to Etsy's platform changes over the years. No matter what side hustle you're pursuing, the landscape is always evolving. Customers' tastes change. So whether it's new policies, algorithms, or trends in your niche, the ability to pivot, learn, and grow with the platform that you're on is essential for long-term success. Megan knows that she can't rely on just one product that'll sell forever and ever. She started with crocheting, then had a failed attempt at jewelry. She won big with her Charlie Brown scarves. But then as that started to die down, she expanded into wall decor, essentially being open to tweak what works for her lifestyle and her audience. So for your side hustle, be prepared to launch, test, try, get feedback, and then tweak some more. Be open to adapting and evolving to ensure that your side hustle thrives. And if selling on Etsy is of interest, but you don't want to jump in with something as labor-intensive as what Megan does, consider digital products. That way you're running a more passive business, at least in terms of product delivery. Rachel Jimenez tells us all about it in episode 39, Excelling on Etsy, where she too is earning six figures through the platform. But her sales are simply downloaded to the customer. We have so many options today in crafting, pardon the pun, a side hustle to suit our needs. So let's be open to change so that we find, or rather create, a great fit. Well, that's a wrap for today. In this episode description, you'll find links to Megan's sites, my book, The Way Success Works, and my course, Turn Your Thoughts into Wanted Things, as well as a link back to the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. And about that survey that I mentioned in the intro, your feedback is incredibly important to me. And you'll notice that the survey asks for your email. Don't let that stop you from sharing your thoughts. It's simply there as a safeguard to prevent spam submissions. So here's the deal. You can enter your own email or even make one up. It doesn't matter. Either way, rest assured you won't be added to any list. That's not what the survey is about. It's all about hearing your insights, your thoughts, so that I can make this podcast even better for you. Thanks again for taking the time to help out. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment. I do read every one of them. Share the episode and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching and hustle on.